everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're excited to be here with you today. Today, here on the East Coast, at least in the US, it is a snow day. So we are cozy inside. We thought what better time to talk about travel and think about going to Italy. So we've put together this info session based on some of the frequently asked questions we get before people go to Italy. Sometimes it's people's first time traveling. Even if you've been many times, sometimes it helps to get a little refresher on what to expect when you arrive. First, I wanted to introduce ourselves and introduce Curata Travel for anyone that's not familiar with us. My name's Kyle Carter, and I'm the Chief Curation Officer of Curata Travel. I've been with the company since the very beginning. I was actually a traveler on their very first tour, and now I head up this awesome team here. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll get into a little bit about Curata Travel and get into some of your questions. Brianna, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Giesemann. I am the manager of curated experiences here at Curata Travel, and I'm also a senior tour leader. I started in 2022 when Curata Travel officially became Curata Travel, but Kyle did mention that we started tours as Caputo Brothers Creamery. I think we said like 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
13 this year, yeah.
Now 13 years ago. So on my end, I work with Kyle and Chris to plan and organize the trips, make the reservations, and then I'm also in correspondence with travelers, getting them prepared for the tour. And then I'm also a tour leader, so I'm on a few tours as well, just sort of making sure everything runs smoothly. So I will pass it to my colleague Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Althouse. I am the experience curator at Curata Travel and also a tour leader. So, similarly to Brianna, I work behind the scenes to make sure that everything runs super smoothly on tour and communicate with travelers beforehand. And since I'm a tour leader, I also accompany travelers on a few tours. And I'm very excited to share these tips and tricks with you today because it'll just help make your travel run as smoothly and as stress-free as possible. So I'll pass it off to Martina now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martina Bartolozzi, and I am also a senior tour leader at Curata Travel. I first started working with Curata Travel in 2018, and I lead most of the tours here in Italy. I was born here in Italy, in Florence, where I am tuning in from, and I am part American. So here on the ground, I will be your, let's say, your cultural interpreter, helping bridge the gap between the American culture and the Italian culture, and especially all about food, as I've always worked in food for my whole life, and it is my greatest passion. So, yes, I'm looking forward to traveling together.
Awesome. So I just wanted to point out quickly for during the webinar, if you have any questions, we have some people that maybe have submitted questions beforehand, but if you have any questions that arise while we're talking, feel free to put them in the chat section and we'll answer them as we go. Some of them may be answered here. So just a little bit about Curata Travel. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, as Brianna said also, we've been running tours since 2012, and we really focus on small group tours. Typically, we've got 20 or less people, and the main focus of our tours is to show people the authentic side of Italy. So, and everything from a culinary perspective. So, really sharing the rich cultural traditions that Italy has through not only the cuisine, through our meals, but through meeting different artists and producers, learning how these products are made, really learning about how hyper regional everything is there. Typically on our trips, we're visiting at least two, if not three or more different regions. And so you really get a feel of what the specific specialties are in that area, and really hope that you come away with a sense of the incredible culture of this country. So that's what we love to show people through our tours. And so as part of these small group tours, we're, like I said, we're taking about 20 people or so over. Obviously, everyone has a lot of questions, and that's something that we wanted to share with people today. So these webinars are meant to get some of your questions answered as you're thinking about travel or as you're thinking about going to Italy. So we pulled together some of our most frequently asked questions. It runs the gamut everywhere from before you go, so packing, booking your flight, and then once you get over there, transportation, money, weather, all sorts of things. So these are things that we pulled together based on our travelers, the things that we've heard over the years, and hopefully get some of your questions answered before you go.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the most important one, I think, because without your passport, you're not getting to Italy. You can always buy more clothes there. You can find electronics if you really need them. But without that passport, you're not getting in. So everyone needs a passport, and that passport needs to be valid for, we recommend 6 months after your planned departure date from Italy or wherever you're departing from in Europe. Sometimes they allow 3 months, they say, but really just to play it safe, go with that 6 months validity after your planned departure. That was sort of the standard until this year, I think, and I'll sort of explain what I mean by that. So the new ETIAS will start sometime this year again, I think. So ETIAS stands for the European Travel Information and Authorization System. It's not necessarily a visa, but more of a, and it's in the name, an authorization of you to be able to enter the country. And it's pretty simple. It sounds a little scary. It's pretty simple. So starting sometime this year, it was supposed to start back in like 2022. They keep postponing it. So they're saying mid to late 2025 should be the start date. But basically, it's just an online form that you'll fill out a week or two before your trip. You fill out your contact information. It's €7, which is about like $8 to complete the form. And then that form is valid for 3 years. So you can continue to use that ETIAS for the next 3 years as long as your passport will not expire within those 3 years. Most likely you'll get like an email either from your airline, probably from your airline, that will give you a heads up like, hey, you need to fill this out before you go. But if you're traveling with us, we'll also give you reminders leading up to your trip as well. Something that has started is the ETA, or the Electronic Travel Authorization. This is specifically if you're traveling to or through the UK. So if you have a connecting flight in London, Heathrow, or London Gatwick, even if you're not staying there, you still have to fill out this form. And again, it's an online form. They say to fill it out at least 3 days before your trip, but I would recommend doing it about a week or two beforehand. Simple, it's just contact information. And then this is a little bit more expensive. It's like £10 or about $15–20. And that's valid for 2 years. Again, you should get an email from your airline to remind you to do this.
Yeah, we also have a blog post on it that Brianna keeps updated. It's got the links to the actual forms and everything that's on our website in our blog section. Next up is booking flights. So we actually did a whole webinar on this a couple months ago with our tips and tricks. We aren't travel agents, but obviously we fly a lot. So we have our own things that we follow when we're doing that. So I recommend, if you're thinking about booking a flight or just have questions, to check out that webinar. It's on our YouTube page. There's also links on our social media as well, and another blog post on that. So people definitely always want to know, when should I book my flight? We used to say 4 to 6 months. Now we're saying don't maybe wait as long as 4 months, maybe move that up to 5 or 6 months. And even before that, you can set up, if you use something like Google Flights, You can set up flight alerts. So you can put in the route you're looking for. It'll send you regular updates via email about prices going up and down. But if you look too far ahead of that, some of those flight itineraries might not even be available yet. So, say you're trying to look a year ahead of your trip, it may only have, I'm going to pick a number, it may only have like 10 flights available. Whereas if you're waiting in that 6 month window, you'll have like 30 flights to choose from, which gives you better pricing, better itinerary options, more itinerary options. Um, and we always say think outside the box. A lot of people look at their closest airport. So our company is located in central Pennsylvania. So closest airport is actually Harrisburg. And then our trips generally start with a pickup at an airport. Say it's the Pisa airport. Um, but don't just think Harrisburg to Pisa, Pisa to Harrisburg. Think, all right, I've also got Philadelphia. I've got DC, all the DC airports nearby, or BWI. So something like Google Flights allows you to put in multiple, you can either put in the word Washington, D.C., and it'll look at all of those area airports. You can add additional ones. And if you're looking at Pisa, think maybe Florence, or you can even look at something like a Rome or Milan. You're going to find maybe more flights, cheaper flights, and then you could take a train into Pisa. So there are lots of other options. Don't just box yourself into the to from, really, really think of that. Think of going a day before, coming back a day later. A lot of people also like to look at extending a layover. If you go through somewhere interesting, I had a trip to Croatia and there was an overnight in Copenhagen. So we extended that a couple of days and really got to explore Copenhagen, which was not on my bingo card to go to, but absolutely loved it. Would definitely want to go back. Um, so there's all sorts of options. The webinar that we did previously really goes into depth about that, but these are just sort of our highlights when you talk about booking flights.
So packing can be a very daunting part of international travel. Wondering what to bring, what you're able to leave behind. We get a lot of questions from our travelers about it. Um, and we have a lot of pre-trip communication with our travelers to answer individual packing questions. We send out a packing checklist, but these points here are some of the biggest takeaways for packing, especially with international travel. So first and foremost, is there a dress code? On our tours, there is no dress code. We do not have a formal night per se in which everyone needs to dress up. We say pack comfortable clothes, comfortable shoes, breathable clothes, because you don't want to get over there and be uncomfortable with the clothing that you brought. The only instance in which we have a slight, not dress code, but a recommendation or encouragement is our last night on tour. It's called Limone Night. Limone is the Italian word for lemon. And and that is our symbol. And so Limone Night, we encourage all of our travelers to wear something yellow or with a lemon on it or lemons on it. So a shirt, a scarf, socks. We've seen it all. And obviously that is not required, but it's an encouragement. When you're in Italy, one thing that you might run into where there is a dress code is churches. Obviously, Italy is laden with churches. And so if you plan on visiting one, something important to keep in mind is that the standard dress code for churches is shoulders covered and knees covered. And you can cover them with a shawl, a wrap, a towel, even. But it's very important, and sometimes churches will provide a covering or a wrap of sorts for a euro or two, but that's not every church will do that. So it's important to keep in mind if you do plan on visiting a church. That is the one area where you'll run into a dress code. Um, Moving on, we have this great acronym called TACT, which Brianna came up with recently. And it is an acronym, a guideline for what you should pack in your personal item. And so the T stands for your travel documents. You should have your passport on you at all times. We also recommend a scanned copy of your passport as well in case any problems arise, you have a backup. Another outfit. In the case of lost luggage, it is very helpful to have an extra outfit on you to change into. And that also goes for cure, which is for medication and prescriptions. If there's any medication that you need to take, it is very important to have that on you at all times. You don't want to be put in a situation where you are without anything that you need for your health, especially. And then tech, of course, your phone, your laptop, your chargers, and your adapters are very important to have on you at all times. We also recommend investing in an AirTag. If you don't know what an AirTag is, it is a tracking device made by Apple, and it links with your phone. So you will be able to see the location of the AirTag through your phone constantly. And we recommend putting that in your checked bag because, in the case of lost luggage, sometimes the airlines will struggle with communication and with letting you know exactly where your bag is and locating it. And so, if you have that location already, you can help the airlines and the airports giving them information so you're able to get your bags as quickly as possible. And like I said, we send out a packing checklist in our pre-trip communications, and we have an Amazon shop link right there where we have our favorite travel products and some of our essentials that you should bring with you.
Yeah, the AirTag is nice. Just from a personal experience, I think I landed in Palermo maybe. And when we landed, I pulled it up and could see that my bag was still in London. So rather than going to baggage claim, sitting there waiting and not finding my luggage, I was able to go straight to the lost luggage counter and start that process, just filling out the paperwork. And I will say, and I had my carry on with my personal items. So I had to wait, I think, another day for my bag to arrive. But I had another outfit. I had another pair of shoes. I had, if you're going to a nice location, pack a bathing suit so you can spend the day on the beach while you're waiting for your bag. But yeah, all of those things, just from my own personal experience, all of these things are definitely what I do.
And the AirTag is one of those things where it's like if you ha you know, like if you have an umbrella, it's not going to rain, but if you don't, it's going to pour. An AirTag is one of those things, if you have it, I feel like usually things go pretty smoothly. But if you don't have it, I mean, this is a very rare occasion, but it does happen where people lose their bags and they never get them back. So just to have that AirTag in there just for peace of mind, you know where it is. I feel like we've sort of gently recommended it in the past. I think it's becoming more and more important that you have it in the bag. Yeah.
Next thing that we're going to talk about is electricity. So this also goes back to packing, and you do need, there are different plugs in Italy. So you would need an adapter and maybe even a converter to go with you. And what's the difference? So an adapter literally is just adapting your plug into a European plug. So like the one you see in this picture, you would take, it's literally just a cap sort of that goes on your plug and gives you the prongs that you need to go into an Italian outlet. So you'll see the second bullet says Type C adapter. When you go in Amazon or any of these shops to look, there's type and then letters. So you'll want the Type C adapter for Italy. You may also see Type L. Type L is a three-prong plug, and just like over here, not every outlet has three prongs. So the two-prong, the Type C, will work everywhere. So that's an adapter, and that's something that you would use for your chargers, for your laptop, all that kind of stuff. A converter is what actually converts the voltage and is something you would need for anything that, sort of general terms, heats up or has a motor. So that would be if you do bring your own hair dryer, if you bring a curling iron or straightener, if you have an electric razor. So anything like that, if you bring a travel iron or something like that, those you would need a converter. And so that will convert the voltage so that you don't send your curling iron up into flames. Another note about electricity in Italian hotels. This is something that we covered in our accommodations webinar. We went more into depth about this, but we have a lot of people that will get to a hotel and they'll text us or call down to the front desk that there's no electricity in their rooms. So your hotel key card, or if you do have an old school key for your hotel room, you'll still have probably a card on that same key ring That's something when you walk into your room, there'll be a slot right by the light switch, right by the door. You put the key card in there, and that'll turn your electricity on for the room. And the reason for this is Italy is much more energy conscious than I think we are here in the United States. And so that assures that you're not leaving everything on and blazing when you're not in the room. Uh, this will also control usually the AC, the heat. Um, Another thing you'll find is the windows are usually controlled where it's awesome to leave your windows open. It's great if you're on the coast, but they do usually have a sensor where if you have the windows open, your AC or heat would cut off. So if you want the air conditioning running, you have to keep your windows closed, or if there's a sliding door or something like that. But yeah, the key card in the slot, that'll turn your lights on.
Okay, money. We get a lot of questions on um, can I bring US dollars? How do I get euros? Will they accept my credit card? So, will Italy accept US dollars? No, they will not. You have to have euros for your credit card. So, how do you get euros? There's a couple different options. If you are a member of AAA, they actually offer a service. You can go in and they will exchange your money for free. Um, or you can go to your bank. I don't believe all of them do it, but you can just check to see if they will give you euros. So that's just something to check um, at least a few weeks beforehand to make sure that they can do it. But there's usually a little bit of a fee attached to that. We find the easiest way to get euros is to just wait until you get to Italy. There are ATMs associated with banks all over. And so you just have to bring your bank card, your debit card, go to the bank ATM there. You'll put in your code, tell it how much you want out. Usually it has a maximum of somewhere between 400 and 500 euros, depending on your bank. And then depending on the ATM, there's just a small fee attached to that. Sometimes it's like 3 euros 50 cents. Sometimes it's 0 euros. Sometimes it's 5 euros. It just depends. But that's usually the cheapest and easiest way to go. There's a caveat there. You have to remember one important thing when using the ATM. At one point during your transaction, they will ask you if you would like to do the conversion to euros with the machine. You want to always hit decline conversion. This will allow your bank to do the conversion for you instead of the machine itself, and it will give you a better rate that way. So decline conversion, no conversion. That's the most important thing. Credit cards. Yes, you can bring your credit card. Most places will accept your credit card. If you have American Express, you just have to be careful. Not all places in Italy will accept American Express just because it typically has a higher fee on it. But you should be able to use your MasterCard or your Visa wherever in Italy. Did I miss anything, Kyle?
My only other thing about ATM was to look for ones that have a recognized bank name on them. HSBC, a global bank name, something like that, HSBC or something like that. Then that's more different from a generic looking one, just because the fees will be better. And all of these things are preferable than going to the exchange desk at the airport. Those will have the highest fees possible. So those are usually the ones when you get out a baggage claim or even in our airport here in the US, they'll have desks set up. Stay away from those. That should not even be on your list. Yeah, it's not even on a list. Don't even look at them. No, thank you. No, thank you. I have all my money. Um, so yeah, those are my only two notes.
Something I also want to add is that something that I've run into personally is if you are getting your euros out in America, either from AAA or from your bank, it's always a good idea to call in advance before you go in person because what I've run into is that sometimes my bank needs to order euros because they don't have any or enough in stock. So you'll just have to tell them about how much you are looking to exchange. So it's always a good idea to do it a few weeks in advance, like Brianna said, but also give them a call before you go in person.
Good,
Great
good
tip.
point. Speaking of tips,
Continuing with the theme of money, um, is tipping. We get asked a lot about tipping because it is such a customary and necessary thing to do in America, but in Italy, there's a very different culture around tipping. So in the US, where it would be considered rude not to tip where you are in an industry that there's a service provided to you, like a restaurant or transportation. In Italy, yeah, I think I said, yeah, in America where it's customary. In
yes.
Italy, it is not required at all. A lot of Italians do not tip, which is, it can be a culture shock when you go to Italy, actually. If your bill is 40 euros for your dinner and you pay 40 euros and leave, it just feels a little weird not having to do that mental math to calculate in a tip. Um, but it's never seen as a rude thing as well. So a good rule of thumb that we tell our travelers is that it is not necessary at all to tip if your service goes above and beyond. You have really excellent service and you want to show some appreciation. You can always round up your bill a little bit. You would not do the standard 20% that we do in America. That's a bit excessive, but you can always round up your bill a bit. Something to keep in mind with this, though, is that since it is not as big of a part of the culture as it is in America, you're not able to do this with a credit card payment. So if your bill is 40 euros and you're paying with credit card, that is what you're going to pay. There's no option to round up. There is no option to add a percentage tip onto that. You would have to do that with cash, just because it's not as big of a thing as it is here. And so that's a good rule of thumb with restaurants. Like I said, if the service is exceptional, if you have really great service and you want to just show some gratitude, you can round up a little bit. With taxis and private drivers, these vary a little bit. So with taxis, it is not customary to tip. No one is really, taxi drivers are not really expecting a tip necessarily. However, if they're helping you with a lot of luggage, loading the luggage in, unloading the luggage for you, maybe you're driving a farther distance or something like that, same rule of thumb. If you want to round up a little bit, by all means, you can do that. Same rule as before, that it would have to be with cash, as there is no option to do that with card. And another thing to remember with taxis is that if you do plan on paying with card, when you enter the taxi, you should ask that in advance before they start driving, because while most taxi drivers will accept card payment, not all do. So you don't want to be put in a situation where they drive you to your destination and all you have is a card to pay them with and they don't accept that. So definitely ask about cards beforehand. And then if you'd like to tip, you can do that with cash, just rounding up a little bit. With private drivers, it's a little more normalized than expected to tip if you hire a private driver. And the amount that you tip is a little dependent on the service that they provide. So if you're doing a shorter drive with them, you could round up maybe 5 to 10 euros. If they're doing a longer drive for you and maybe helping load and unload your luggage, then you could do a little bit more, 15 to 20 euros. Um, and then with local guides, so if you go out and do a guided tour of a city on your own or something like that, a food tour, whatever it may be, the company that that person is working for will likely have information about tipping them. But with Curata Travel, anything that we do as a group, we cover tipping and any of that. So restaurants, meals that we do together, and guided tours that we do together, you do not have to worry about tipping the staff or tipping the tour guide. As Brianna said, it's necessary to use euros in Italy, so definitely tip in euros. It just would be a lot easier for them to, so they don't have to exchange the currency of their tips. And then tipping while on a Curata travel tour. As I mentioned, we take care of tipping things that we do as a group. The industry standard for tipping tour directors is $4 to $5 per day, and that is split between the tour directors that accompany you on your Curata travel tour. And for a driver, it is $2 to $3 per day. Tips are never expected, but always appreciated. And all of this tip information can be found in our traveler handbook as well.
Yeah, so I would say, like Chris said, so what's included in your tour price when you do a tour with us is Like you said, we are taking care of the hotel staff, also um, the restaurants, the excursions. If we take the group on like a walking tour, and we also never discourage people from if you felt like, oh my gosh, this walking tour was amazing, I'd like to add something else. We would never tell you not to. You're always welcome to do that, but we've tipped them. Um, and then, yeah, so the only things that are not included are gratuities for our bus driver, and then also for your tour leaders on that particular tour. And again, all of that's information shared with you before your tour. And now we'll let Martina talk. Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now? All right.
Yeah.
So for transportation, while you are on tour with us for any of the activities that we do that are a little further, we will take care of the transportation for us as a group. But during your free time or in any time that you may spend in Italy before or after the tour, you'll want to have this information. So taxis, there are different ways to find a taxi. The least common is hailing one down. So this is how you find one instead. You can either utilize an app called Free Now that works kind of like Uber, where you put in your location where you'd like to go, and it's going to find a taxi close to you. And in some of the major cities, for example, in Rome and in Florence and then in Milan, you can also utilize Uber, though Free Now is probably the most convenient at the moment. Uber isn't quite as present here as it is in the States. Then you can find the taxis also at what are known as taxi stands, which you can find by looking for this orange sign that you see here in the presentation. And taxi stands are located all over the major cities in areas of high foot traffic where they know that there will be people expecting taxis. And it's kind of like a parking lot for taxis. And you can't just choose the one that you want. You have to go to the top and pick the one that is at the beginning of the line. Otherwise, you can also call taxis by calling the either if it's a small town, the private taxi drivers that are there, or if it's a larger place, then you call a call center and you can find the phone number for the local taxis either by asking your accommodation or asking us, or you can usually find them on Google as well. And if you do call a taxi, oftentimes you'll either speak directly to a person or else there will be a call center that might start in Italian, but wait a minute and it'll either translate automatically to English or a person will pick up and you can tell them where you are. Then, if you are taking public transportation, such as buses and trains tickets, you have to be aware that you might need to validate your ticket. If you purchased a ticket online and it was sent directly to your email address, usually you're just good to go. But if you buy it instead at a kiosk near the bus station or at the train station, then you will need to validate the ticket. In buses, you validate the ticket on the bus, inside the bus, as well as in trams. While instead on trains, you have to validate the ticket while you're at the train station at one of the little validation boxes. Then the next topic that we are going to cover is the Italian bar. The bar, which is different from the bar. In Italy, a bar is a cafe, basically, where in the morning you can have a little cappuccino, a coffee, a pastry. Around noon, you can have a little quick bite, maybe. And then in the evening time, you can have cocktails, wine, beer, a little aperitivo, a little something to drink and to snack on. So it's very handy because it has everything in one spot. So the bar is also where you would have the classic Italian breakfast of a cappuccino and a little pastry. And speaking of, you will want to know the difference between ordering your desired breakfast either at the counter or seated. So usually what you do is that if you want to do just something quick, you walk in, you go to the cash register, you tell the cash register person what you would like to order, pay, and then you go to the counter with your receipt and ask the barista to prepare your order, which you will then consume right then and there standing at the counter. If instead you would like to be seated and to take a little more time, maybe it's a beautiful bar on one of the main squares, or you're just ready to relax a little bit, then you will go to the bar and you can get seated by someone, and there they will take your order and bring you your coffee and your desired order. In this case, you will pay a little surcharge for this service, for this wait service called coperto. Coperto is usually, it's proportionate to the place that you're at. So for example, to the average price of the bill. So for example, if you're at a cafe, maybe coperto will be 1 or 2 euros more. If you are at a cafe in a beautiful square, then maybe even a little bit more. And if you're at a restaurant where coperto also applies, it'll be a little more, usually in between overall 2 and 5 euro surcharge. So just don't be surprised if you see a little surcharge on your receipt when you go pay it. They're not trying to scam you. It is just a customary, let's say. It's just the way that it is. Then for restrooms. So restrooms in cafes are strictly for paying clients. So for example, if you're out and about and you're enjoying a stroll through the city or town and you need to use a restroom, you're more than welcome to use one at a cafe, but first you have to make a purchase and thus become a client. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can just be a bottle of water or a little cafe drunk at the counter, or even just a pack of gums. And then you, as a client, you can utilize the bathroom. Sometimes bathrooms are locked with a key, and so you might have to ask the person behind the counter if they can give you the key to go and open the bathroom, the restroom. Then the next topic that we are going to cover
Sorry,
is,
I'm gonna add one
of course.
thing, Martina. So we talked about the Italian bar. So this, if you're traveling on your own, and you want to do breakfast like a typical Italian, this is your way to go. If you're traveling on your own, staying in a hotel, or traveling with us, hotels offer a more robust, let's say, universal breakfast. So it's not just the cappuccino and a pastry, but they also will have eggs, bacon, meats, cheeses, fruits, you name it. It's usually pretty robust. So in hotels, they usually offer a larger selection of items. Sorry, now we can go to the next one.
No, thank you.
I was actually going to point something out too. Going back to just going back to when we talked about money as well. And I don't think we really talked. A lot of people ask like how much money they should take out before they go. And like we said, you can use your credit card in a lot of places, but it's good to have some euros on you at all times. Like you were saying, Martina, about the restroom. If you need to run in somewhere and just buy a bottle of water or a cafe, you don't want to put that on a credit card. It's nice to have a couple euros and be able to just have that transaction. That was the only thing I was going to add.
Yes, excellent point. And also circling back to hotel breakfast, if you're traveling with us, we recommend you go light on breakfast because a lot of the meals will be very full and very delicious. And it's actually the topic that we're going to talk about next, the Italian meal. So in Italy, meal times tend to be a bit later compared to the States. So for example, we wouldn't sit down for lunch at least at 12:30, but also at 1 or 1:30. And for dinner instead, usually not at least until 7:30, but more commonly even 8 or 8:30. And the meals in Italy, mealtime is very special because it is a time to socialize, a time to share about your experiences about the experiences that you had during the day. It's a time also to, in a certain sense, appreciate our culture in a certain way, our culture and our traditions through all of the delicious food that we have and that has been made here for decades and centuries. And so mealtime tend to go a bit longer also because it's much more slowly paced. It is very much about relaxation. And so a meal, like if it's on the shorter side, it'll be like an hour and a half, but sometimes it can be even 2 hours or a little longer. And on our tours, we adjust these to an appropriate length for depending on the day's activities. So usually dinners will go a little bit longer and lunch will be a little quicker, let's say. And that is because in Italy, restaurants also aren't focused on turning tables to new customers. They usually either do just one seating or at most two seatings for each service, lunch and dinner service. Then, when you are, what are the meals composed of? We have different courses. Antipasto, which is little things to enjoy, maybe usually shared, just to nibble on while your primo is being prepared. Primo is usually either pasta, rice, or soup. Secondo is usually a protein dish, so fish, meat, and it is accompanied by a contorno, which is a side dish. And after secondo, there is a dolce, which is dessert. After dolce, not during. After dolce is coffee. And sometimes after coffee, there's also a mazza cafe or digestives, a little liquor. Like this is where you would have your limoncello after coffee. And you never, when you're dining on, so when you travel with us, we we choose every meal in advance so that you can get an appropriate selection of all different dishes at all the different restaurants and have always what is most traditional and most representative of that area. And we choose usually either an antipasto and a primo or a secondo, or sometimes both, depending. You never have to order every single course when you're on your own. And you can also mix them up a little bit. So, for example, you can, or everyone can order an antipasto, and then everyone orders either a primo or a secondo. You don't all have to order in the same category of dishes. Then, when you have had your antipasto, primo, secondo, dolce cafe, ammazza cafe, and everything, it is time to ask for the check. Again, because in Italy, restaurants aren't focused on turning tables, they will not bring you your check unless you ask for it, because it's actually seen as rude. It's seen as unwelcoming in Italy to bring the check to a table before someone is ready to go. And so you will want to ask for il conto, per favore. Il conto means the check, and per favore means please. In addition to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we also have another, it's not exactly a meal, let's say it's a custom, which is called aperitivo. Aperitivo is the Italian custom of enjoying a little beverage, a little something to drink, maybe with some light snacks in the time between the end of work and before dinner. And it is a way for people to socialize and to decompress from the workday and begin with the rest of their evening. Then, speaking of Italian language, so il conto per favore, there are other words that you might want to know that can be very helpful for you and to enjoy your time in Italy at the max. And Italians really, really appreciate when you know at least one or two words. It's very much appreciated, and they'll never give you a hard time if you can't get past those two or three words, but appreciate the ones that you know. So a common misconception is about the word ciao. So I'm sure most of you have heard the word ciao, which means hello in Italian. The misconception, though, is that you can use it everywhere. Ciao is actually only for family and friends. It wouldn't be used in a more formal setting, or it wouldn't be used with strangers. If you really want to level up your Italian, then instead of saying ciao, you'll want to learn how to say buongiorno and buonasera. Buongiorno means good morning, good day, and buonasera means good evening. And you start saying buonasera like in the afternoon time, let's say, so after lunch. And other words that you'll want to know are per favore, as we mentioned earlier, which means please, and thank you, which is pronounced grazie, not grazie. So just don't look at how the word is spelled. Forget that it ends with an I and E, and just close your eyes and listen. It's grazie. Grazie. I know it feels weird to pronounce it in that way, but that is the correct pronunciation. And of course, if you say grazie, no one is going to give you a hard time. They'll appreciate the grazie anyways. And in return, they might say, "You're welcome," which is prego, just like the pasta sauce. Prego, you're welcome. And one tool that is incredibly handy and that I use all the time, also when I travel elsewhere other than in Italy, is Google Translate. Specifically, you'll want to download the Google Translate app, which is 100% free. And within the app, you can pre-download the Italian language. That way, you can use the app also when you're offline. So when you're not connected to your mobile data or to the Wi-Fi. And it's incredibly, incredibly handy. One of my absolute favorite features of Google Translate specifically is the camera feature. So you can select translate from Italian, and then you point the app at whatever word you're trying to translate, and it'll automatically translate it on your screen. So you don't have to type it in. You can just take a picture and it'll translate it for you.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
great
also has,
for yeah, it's great for signs. It's great for menus. You can put your
Mhm.
camera over the whole menu and it'll translate it for you.
And it also has a speech function. And so if you're trying to communicate, say, with a taxi driver, you can type in what you want to say in English, tell it to translate and to speak, and it will pronounce what you want to say in Italian. So very, very handy. But if you don't want to have to deal with any of that, of course, travel with us as a group because we will take care of all of that communication for you. And for example, in my case, Italian is actually my first language, so I'll be very, very happy to speak any Italian for you guys.
Absolutely. And that leads us right into some of our tours. Usually in these webinars at the end, we like to highlight some of our upcoming tours that we have. This one, I recently wrote a blog post about our iconic Italy tour, which we have coming up in May. We still have a couple spots available. And my blog post was kind of to explain why this tour is so special to us, why we renamed it. We used to call it our Northern Italy tour, but that's also back when we were, this is as far north as we were going. We now go all the way up to the Dolomites and Piemonte. So it's now our iconic Italy tour. And the reason we named it this is because for me, um, it was the first tour we ever did when we were putting these tours together and picking what we thought was the most important thing for people to see if this was going to be their first or maybe only trip to Italy. We feel like it really gives people an incredible view of Italy. It's for me, I consider it one of the biggest, if we're talking about frequently asked questions, one of the biggest questions we get is what's your favorite tour? Everybody asks us that. Everybody has their own sort of babies that they love. But for me, this is one that I love for people to experience. I feel like it really covers the classics and you get such different vistas throughout the trip. It starts in the Cinque Terre, which is on the coast, which is famous for pesto. You'll have amazing seafood, really great wines. There's a beautiful winery that we take you to, and you do an incredible sunset boat cruise to see the Cinque Terre, which means the five lands. It's five towns sort of set into the cliffside. You can see in this top left one of the towns that you've probably seen on any calendar or puzzle or screensaver in your life of Italy. Um, from there, we go inland. We go to Emilia Romagna and stay in Bologna, which is really a heartland and of food in Italy. It's a food lover's dream. It's got in this area, we're going to see how Parmigiano Reggiano, balsamic vinegar, traditional balsamic vinegar. You'll see at the bottom there the tortellini, which is famous in the Bologna area, lasagna, bolognese, all of these things before we head into Tuscany, which is, if you think of Italy, a lot of people, the first thing they think of is Tuscany. And we'll have the classic Tuscan visit. We'll have Chianti. We'll be going to a Tuscan castle in the hills. You're going to see just the everything that you see on this trip. I feel like I can't explain it well enough. You're going to see exactly what you have had in your mind's eye when you think of Italy. And then just our small group tours in general are just meant for people who want to experience these things to come together and have this great sense of community. And iconic Italy, I just feel like is the perfect chance for that. We last ran this tour in September of last year. Brianna and Martina led that tour. And for the first time in a long time, every single person on that tour was brand new. We typically have a lot of returning customers, but this it was really, I think, a cool experience for all these people to it was their first trip with Curata. It was this itinerary, and I think it's just a really special tour for someone to experience. And so we do still have a couple rooms left on that. That's mid-May, which is an amazing time to travel before it. I mean, Italy's always a popular spot, but before it gets too hectic there in the summer. And then another tour that we are excited to share with everyone is a brand new itinerary for this year that are Martina and one of our other tour leaders, Romina, who's also a resident of Florence, something that we have worked with them to put together and share with you. So I'll let Martina talk a little bit about that. I don't know why some of the letters aren't coming up. We'll let you fill in the blanks.
So this tour is very, very close and dear to my heart because it's in my home. And I was born and raised here in Tuscany and Florence specifically. And it is a tour that highlights the city and also highlights all of some of the amazing, amazing women in the culinary arts who are present here. So, for example, during the her Florence tour, we will be visiting all restaurants that are either woman-led or woman-owned, as well as all woman-led and woman-owned businesses. We're going to go and visit a coffee roaster and learn what makes Italian coffee so special, how the Italians revolutionized coffee with the invention of the espresso machine. We're going to do a day trip out in the Chianti Hills in the hills of Tuscany and go visit a winery that is 700 years old and still run by the countess who inherited it from her family. And she is the most chill countess in the world, by the way. She's a hoot. And we're also going to go truffle hunting with a woman-owned truffle hunting business. And one of the cool things about this tour is that it's a week and it's all based in the same location. And so you will really get to learn Florence like nobody else because Florence really needs in-depth understanding. I feel like some places, uh, we learn to understand them in the same way that we learn to understand people. And just, meeting someone once for a short time, especially a very complex person or a complex place like Florence, you might not get a proper understanding of them. And so we want you guys to get to enjoy and develop a beautiful relationship with the city and that has so much to offer. I mean, I live here 365 days a year and I've yet to see every single corner. It's that rich. So I hope you can join us this November, which will also be a bit of a quieter time to visit Florence. Florence tends to have a lot of visitors, and it can get honestly overwhelming, especially in the springtime and in the summer months. But November is just right. The temperatures will start to go down a little bit. You will start to feel a tingling of Christmas and of the holiday seasons in the air, and it'll be just a splendid time to be here. So I hope you can join us on this tour.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a really great experience. And Martina and I did Instagram Live last week. So you can go, if you're on social media, you can go back to that and watch. It's a little more in depth, get some more information. Typically, our tours focus on off the beaten path locations. So we usually are trying to get you out of bigger cities like this. But when we do a Florence or a Rome or a Venice, it's because we want to do it the right way. We have a lot of people that will extend their trips and stay, say, oh, I'm going to stay in Florence for one extra night, or I'm going to stay in Rome, go to Rome for a night. There's no way you can explore these cities in 1 or 2 nights in the way that you should. So this is a really unique opportunity to spend a week with two Florentine residents and see their neighborhoods, see their side of Florence. And I think it's a really unique opportunity, and we're excited to offer it this year. We do have some other trips this year that still have seats together, still have seats available. We've got our Christmas markets tour in December. We have a couple seats left on a Sicily Calabria trip this spring. And then next year, we recently, at the beginning of January, released all of our 2026 tours. So we do have a couple of our classic tours on here, our Due Coste tour, Tuscan Immersion tour. And then we have some new itineraries that we're really excited. It's something that we love to do as we travel throughout Italy is, we're always looking for new itineraries to put together. We have, our favorites, like I was talking about with Iconic Italy, but we want to show people everything. And this first one, the Lucca and Carnevale season, is another one that Martina, sort of a passion project that she had wanted to share. We've always talked about taking people to a festival like this, and the Carnevale in Viareggio is unique. It's one of the biggest and most most production value, you would say, Martina, in the country.
Yes.
She's actually going this weekend, and it's a really amazing time to be in this area to experience. Our Wonders of Western Sicily tour is a tour we've offered before, but we've actually extended it now. So we used to only go to Trapani and Palermo, and we've added Agrigento, which is a little south of Trapani. And this is a really unique area of Sicily. It's it's not like any part of Italy I think that you've probably ever been to before. There's a really amazing salt excursion where you get to harvest your own sea salt, see how that's produced. You're in the Marsala region. Palermo itself is super vibrant, amazing street food and market scene where we'll do a little walking tour. You'll also see, and you'll see on our website, this coast to coast tour with Chef Taylor Mason. We do some chef-led retreats where we work with different chefs. Chef Taylor Mason is one we usually do 2 per year with him. So we've got this spring one, and then there's one coming soon in the fall of next year. We have a fall one with him as well, and that's a super unique opportunity to travel with, in this case, a James Beard nominated chef who is super passionate about all things Italy and Italian food and culture, and super dynamic, really great to travel with. Classic Italy is one that we came up with in our retreat last year as we were kind of thinking about other ways that we want to show people the Italy that we love. We did a festival last fall, and I feel like everyone who came up to us, Chris was with me, was like, "Oh, I just went to Italy." "Oh, where'd you go?" "We went to Florence, Venice, and Rome." "Florence, Venice, Rome." "Florence, Venice, Rome," which is great. Those are all places you have to see when you go to Italy. And so we were like, well, some of the bigger companies do that route. What would be what we think of as classic Italy? So this includes Perugia, which is in Umbria, Bologna, as I mentioned, in iconic Italy, and then it ends up in a town called Chioggia outside of Venice. So you do get to see Venice for the day. But this is what we feel, other than our iconic Italy tour, this would be our classic Italy version of those bigger box tours. Unconventional Tuscany is back for 2026. And that is one that Martina also, it was the first itinerary she did fully for us. And that is, well, Martina, you can speak a little about that. I'll let you do that.
So, Unconventional Tuscany is kind of the parallel to Lucca and Carnevale season. They're both based in Tuscany. Lucca and Carnevale is in the cooler months and in the northern area of Tuscany. Well, instead, Unconventional Tuscany is in the warmer months in the south. And on this tour, we go and do some very unique experiences that we don't have on any of our other tours. Specifically, we go to do a very special fishing experience out at sea with an activist fisherman who is very interested in promoting more sustainable fishing practices. We also go to a very small town that is at risk of extinction right now and learn the story of 3 young men who are trying to bring it back to life and who are actually succeeding greatly in it. And it's all about the going back to the roots of Tuscany and to more simple times and to truly appreciating and understanding where our food comes from. So we hope you can join us on that tour as well.
And what I will say, I went last year with Martina. These are all places that she went to growing up. And so a lot of these places that we go to are her personal contacts, her friends, or people who she might consider family at this point. So it's really, really interesting to travel then with your tour director who you see these connections throughout, and then you automatically feel like you're a family too. So I think that's really special.
Cruising Croatia is one that we did for the first time last year. This is a small boat cruise. Croatia is the first country outside of Italy that we offered, and it was such a hit. We had such an amazing time. We work with a boating company and customized this whole itinerary to explore the cuisine of Croatia. We did some really cool experiences there, really great wineries, food experiences, a farmstead visit with their olive oil. So, especially if you have been to Italy, this is a really neat. Um, they are very obviously close geographically, but there are a lot of crossovers with the cuisine that I think are really interesting. And it was a fantastic way to travel on this small, I think it was like 18-room boat that we had all to ourselves, which is really great. So we're just working on the dates with them to put that together. You can join the wait list on the website. Summer in the Dolomites is another new tour that we're doing. We were looking for something in the middle of the summer where it's getting really hot in some of the cities, somewhere we could go where it'll be a little more crisp, a little more comfortable. And our other tour leader, Romina, grew up going to the Dolomites in the summer to visit her grandparents. And she was really excited about putting this together. So this has a lot of I would say it's more for active adults. There are some hiking excursions. We're even going to an adventure park where you can hike or zip line or take a mountain coaster. We'll do some foraging. So it's really more of, for us, an adventure tour, if I can say even going that far, adventure light maybe. And there'll also be some great relaxation opportunities as well. But it's a great location to be in the heat of the summer in end of July. Due Coste is one that it's one of our classics that we have every year. I always say it's Brianna's favorite. Um, but I always say it's like the classic vacation tour. It's a lot of time on the coast. We start over near the Amalfi Coast, near Sorrento. We do a boat trip to Positano, Capri area. And then before we move more inland to the town of Matera, which is a famous cave town. If you look it up, you will recognize it. You've seen it in Passion of the Christ, in a James Bond movie, Wonder Woman. It's this amazing cave town it's very hard to describe until you can see it. And then we end on the coast in Puglia, which is the heel of the boot of Italy. Stay in an amazing masseria and do some great cooking experiences also on the coast. This is like I said, I feel like it's a great summer vacation. We usually have it in the middle of the summer. We've moved it to beginning of September, again, to try to avoid some of those crowds, try to avoid some of the heat of the summer. Spain, this is our new adventure for 2026. We have friends that opened a culinary school on the coast of Spain. So since they've opened that, we've spent some time going back and forth and crafting a tour that will be in Valencia and then a little south in a town called Altea. So we are not trying to branch out of Italy in any crazy way, but sort of as some of these opportunities come up, we're excited to explore new places and to take you there as well. So this is a new excursion for us. And then underneath that, you'll see La Cucina Puglia. This is a tour that we ran in 2017 and 2018 that we're bringing back. Sort of like her Florence tour. It'll be a deep dive into the cuisine of Puglia. La Cucina means the kitchen. And so we'll be spending a week doing a lot of, like I said, a deep dive into the cuisine of this area, some some hands-on cooking experiences, and a lot of really cool, again, staying in a masseria, which is an amazing experience. And a lot of people like to just stay in one place for a week and not move around too much. And then I did see a question in the chat. This last one, our Tuscan immersion, is a new sort of tour style that we introduced last year that's been very popular. We have friends in Tuscany who own a beautiful agriturismo, which is just a small like B&B area in that area of Tuscany. And it doesn't have enough rooms for us to bring our big groups anymore. So not big groups, our small groups, but it's a very small agriturismo. And so we wanted to do something that was a little more personalized. So for anyone who has a group of 6 people, it'll be a private tour just for you, your group of 6, with one of our tour leaders. We'll have a van and a driver. You'll stay at the agriturismo for the week and then have excursions all day that we've planned for you. And if anyone's interested, you just fill out, if you're interested in any of these tours, and go on our website and click the Book Now button. You'll be taken to our booking request form, and you can fill that out for more information and how to register. But with the Tuscan immersion, you can pick any dates, or you just let us know a range you're looking at, and we'll start working with the agriturismo to see what's available and find dates for you. But that's a cool sort of different, if you have a small group, you're not interested in going with the group of 20 or so, and you want to, again, Tuscan immersion is kind of like the Puglia experience, doing a full week of Tuscany, which has a lot of amazing experiences as well. That was a lot of me talking, I feel like. All of these are on our website. If you go under our tours, it says 2025 tours, 2026 tours, and you can see them all there. Are there any other questions that have come up or that any of you have thought of?
Well, while people are thinking, I will just mention that I noticed we have some travelers that are going to be on tours this year. Hi guys, can't wait to travel with you. But I will just mention that we sort of talked about how we prepare you for your trip coming up. So leading up to your trip, we have a group Zoom that we'll schedule, and we'll go in depth into that packing list that Chris talked about. We'll go in depth into the itinerary to help you get a little bit more excited. And your fellow travelers will be on there as well. So you sort of get a first glance at the people, the group you'll be traveling with. So it just gets everyone a little bit excited. And then we also offer signups for a one-on-one meeting with one of us. So you can sign up if it's your first time traveling with us, or if you just have more questions, we're happy to jump on a call or a Zoom with you and just go through and make sure that we have all of your flight information, and we understand all of your allergies that you might have, and just to make sure that you're good to go. So I know we've answered a lot of questions, we've given you a lot of information, but just know that we're still happy to answer anything else that comes up while you're preparing for your trip.
And this is being recorded, so we'll share it on our social media, but it'll also live on our YouTube page along with the other webinars. So you can always take a glance through those. I know I mentioned some of them earlier. We're trying to do these monthly. We started in December last year, November. This is our 4th one. So if you have an idea for a topic that you'd like us to cover, definitely send that to us. We're happy to take all suggestions, anything you'd like to learn more about. So if you guys don't have anything else, I want to thank everyone for taking the time today, both our team and then all of you who joined us. And if you're watching this at a later date, we hope you found it informative, and we hope to see you for the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Arrivederci.